even yet in anything that I presented? Is there any support there? And if I forget one, please share it with me. My brother right up here shared one with me earlier today, or earlier this week. He shared with me Isaiah 65, 22, and 23. 60. Did I say 65? Did it say 65 or did it say 60? It should have been 60. I don't know what it was. Let me back up here. Oh, typo. On the tape, on DVD, that should be 60. All right, I apologize. Hey, I got it right there. And the sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But Yahuwah shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy mighty one thy glory. The sun shall no more go down, neither shall thy moon withdraw itself. For Yahuwah shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. So, how do you answer this? Ever read Revelation 22, 25? As I said in the earlier presentation, there is no light, no night. There's no night where the Father is. Isaiah 60 is a future prophecy of what it will be like on the earth made new. And interestingly enough, in Isaiah 66, Isaiah also said that we will worship Yahuwah in the earth made new on the new moons and Sabbaths. If the moon isn't giving her light, you're not going to know when new moon is. If there's no lights in the heavens, you're not going to know when new moon is. So we have a problem. Isaiah is talking out of both sides of his mouth, or is he? In one place he's saying you're not going to have lights. In another place he says in the new heaven and new earth you're going to be worshiping by these lights. Let's solve the riddle. Isaiah is not removing the sun and the moon from view as it appears. Rather, he is saying that the less distance there is between us and the Father, the less we are going to be able to see the lights in the heavens due to the brightness that comes from the Father. That's all he's saying. If you're in the kingdom, if you're slam up tight next to him, are you going to be able to see the light of the sun or the moon? Nope. But when you're out away from him on a day that's not a work day or not a worship day, you're outside the city. You're out. We're going to have villas and ranches and rolling hills, and forget this slaving in. Well, we're going to slave over it because we're going to be servants of the Most High. But you know what? I'm going to enjoy slaving in my grape vineyard, and I'm going to prune in my fig trees and my rose bushes. Oh man, you got to come see my place. I'm going to have some rose bushes, okay? Consider it an invitation. You know, when we're out here tending our own stuff, we're not in the city. And the less close we are to the city where he is, we'll be able to, us and the Father, lights in the heavens. Otherwise, Isaiah is a flat liar. And I don't think Isaiah was lying, do you? There's your answer for Isaiah 60, verse 19 and 20. Did I step outside of Scripture to come up with that answer? Or did Scripture adequately defend itself? All right, let's tackle another one. Nehemiah 13, 19. And I should say this was my hammer. This was my club. I never whacked Joey on the head with it, but this was my ace in the hole. This was my trump card. And it turned to ashes in my hands. Thought is supported Sabbath starting at evening. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should be no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. Nehemiah 13:19 is a verse I have used to defend evening to evening. But now, after truly examining this verse, I find that it doesn't support that conclusion at all. It is not saying that the Sabbath begins at evening. It says that it has become, that as it became dark, the gates were shut and the Sabbath had still not yet begun. If the Sabbath begins at evening, that transition period between day and night, then the Sabbath would have begun before darkness, which is called night. Nehemiah says that the darkness had begun and it was still not yet the Sabbath. That this darkness was falling before the Sabbath began. How are you going to get an evening to evening Sabbath out of that? Evening is gone. It's dark. Dark and evening are two separate things. Evening is when you can still see a horizon. It's that transition, that covering. But when that cover is put down, when you pull the covers over your head, you can't see nothing. It's night. That's part of the preparation. Yes, indeed, this evening. What that does is you have some preparation you can do. I mean, the work is done. Okay, as soon as the sun sets, time to go home. We clean up our food, our hammer and our saws and our sickle and our hoe and what have you, shovels, and we put the oxen away. We water and feed and hay. We come home. We take a bath. We've got a window of time to do this because you're going to be working when it's daylight. Work today, for the hour cometh when the sun's up, when the sun shines. Work today, for the hour cometh when no man can work. Okay, daylight hours are for work, but that transition period is to let's get home, get kids put in bed, and be finally prepared. So when does the Sabbath begin? 5 minutes after dark? In Nehemiah 13:19? Can somebody give me 2 or 3 witnesses to this effect? That it begins after darkness has begun? Any takers? I expect some students to at least try. In fact, I want you to. In fact, I demand that you try. Don't take my word for it. Be a Berean.
Do you want a response to this, like right now or after?
After's fine. The dark part is called night. The transition from light to darkness is called evening. Genesis 32:24, Judges 19:26, and Joshua 6:15 all agree that the days begin at dawn. And we're going to read the first one, the one that's in Torah. Genesis 32:24 says, Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. Job felt like the day began at dawn, 2 places. So did Solomon in 2 places, and Solomon was a very wise man. Job 9:3, Job 7:4, Song of Solomon 2:17, and Song of Solomon 4, verse 6. So far, we've only looked at time in one direction, forward. Let's do a little role reversal here. Now let's examine time backwards. Let's read Genesis 19:33 through 35. I love it when a plan comes together. The Father has the counterfeits tied up in knots, coming, going up, down, light, dark, green, purple, pink, tied up in knots, friends. And they made their father drunk with wine. This is Lot's 2 daughters. Okay? And by the way, they thought after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, why were Lot's daughters sleeping with her own dad? They thought that the whole earth had been destroyed. And so they were going to raise up seed. They had no choice. This is the only man around. They were looking around, and everything they saw was torched. It was a logical thing to do. And obviously Moab and Ben-Ami became enemies of Israel, those 2 sons that were born this night, or conceived this night. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she rose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay last night with our father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and thou go in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the younger rose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. I'm missing a verse there somewhere. Let's read. That may have been the wrong translation. Somebody read that in King James. Where is that again? I'm looking for the word yesternight. Where is that in there? Genesis 19. I may have put a New King James or something up here. Genesis 19:33. This is important. Is it in there? Please.
It's right here, yesternight.
Thank you. Is this King James? New King? Okay. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. I'm going to have to fix that slide. Father, forgive me. Now, Lot's oldest daughter tells the younger that she has lain with her father Lot yesternight. There it is, but I wanted it up on the screen a minute ago. And it was the younger sister's turn to lay with her father tonight. In the opinion of the author of Genesis and the translators, yesternight belongs to yesterday, not today. Again, the day cannot begin at even, or the older would have said, Tonight I have lain with father, and it's your turn tomorrow night. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, what? Here's today, here's yesterday. What's this? Yesternight. What's this? Tonight. Does that not painfully obvious? If this is today that she's speaking to her sister, why did she say yesternight, which belongs to yesterday, she laid with Dad? Unless there's something we are not thinking about. It's not sinking in. The roots, the synapses aren't all firing on the same. No problem. In Scripture, tomorrow never begins at even. An example is in Exodus 32. Pardon? I don't know. You have to look. That's Jack's strong suit. He'll take care of that for me. Examples in Exodus 32. I did look it up, and it means yesterday. If that's all it says, actually. In Exodus 32, 5-6, tomorrow in Scripture always begins at the break of day or early in the morning, and this thought is preserved elsewhere. Oh, I should have put those verses on the DVD or the CD. Exodus 18:13, Exodus 16:22, 1 Samuel 19:11, and Esther 2:14. Now, there are some texts that seem to say that the Sabbath begins at evening, but then what will we do with all these other texts presented here already today? The Father is not the author of confusion, so whenever there is a seeming contradiction, it's time to do what? Study. Don't take my word for it. Go home and do your own independent research. The New Testament is not silent on this subject either. Remember when Paul spoke until midnight and was to depart on the morrow? If it was midnight, it was already. Wasn't it already tomorrow? Okay? Now, I would like to add one significant point here. The fact that he spoke until midnight and departed on the morrow is solidified by the term daybreak. He's already at midnight and he's still preaching, and it still ain't tomorrow yet. It was not tomorrow until the break of day. Is this not strikingly clear? Now, Matthew 28:1. In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. Matthew 28:1 says that the first day did not begin until it began to dawn. The first day drew on, and it did not begin 12 hours ago when it first got dark. John 20, verse 19 says the same thing. At evening, indicating that the evening is part of the preceding day, not the next day. Mark 4:35 says the same thing. And to me at least, Luke 23:54 is the nail in the coffin as far as New Testament texts go. Watch this. On that day was preparation day, and the Sabbath drew on. The translators wrote it as the Sabbath drew on, but Strong's Concordance would tell you that the phrase drew on is in the Greek means to grow light. I'm not kidding. If the Sabbath was drawing on as it was beginning to grow light, when did the Sabbath begin? At dawn or 12 hours previously when it got dark? Friends, don't leave one stone uncovered. Do not leave one stone uncovered, or you will possibly be fooled. Remember what Job said about those who call the night day and conversely call the day night? Let's not be unwise. Face it, friends, it took a great deal of time to bury Yahushua. Yahushua was on the stake about 9 a.m., the third hour of the day. It was dark from noon till 3, the 6th to the 9th hours. Then as even was come, it says, Joseph of Arimathea begged for the body. Any point from noon onward could be considered evening, but in the context, Joseph did not ask for the body until sunset, or not shortly before, as we have been taught, but sunset. Again, as even was come. Okay? Mark 15:42 through 43, and now when even was come, because it was a preparation, that is, the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, an honorable counselor, which also waited for the kingdom of Yah, came and went in boldly unto Pilate and craved the body of Yahushua. If even was come, and it was still not the Sabbath, then the point of darkness would have been when the Sabbath had to begin in this scenario. And I actually kept Sabbath from dark to dark for about 3 or 4 years once I read this. Whoa, wait a minute, I can't do it at sunset anymore. It's got to be dark. That was a logical decision. Now, have you tried to account for all the events from the moment Joseph appears before Pilate until dark? Actually, one is forced to recognize dark as evening just to get 30 to 45 minutes or maybe an hour in the summertime. This is spring, though, in the time of the crucifixion. And that's the approximate time from sundown to dark, this few minutes there, to work with. Please examine the evidence and honestly do the math. Is it possible for all the following events to occur in 30 to 45 minutes of time? And I'll be generous, I'll spot you an hour. First of all, Joseph went to Pilate when even was already come. Bang, sunset. It is not said that he actually gained an audience with Pilate at that moment. And what bureaucrat is available the moment you get to his office? Pilate did not believe that Yahushua was dead already and summoned the centurion in charge to inquire this of him. Mark 15:44 and 45. And the centurion in charge would have been back at the site of the crucifixion. Now, how far was it from Pilate's office to Golgotha? A messenger had to be dispatched, and the centurion then returned to Pilate's office. Now, once permission was granted, Joseph still had to return to the hill. They did not have cars, and they still have to get back to Calvary before dark in an even-to-even scenario. Let's say they had horses. Time in Pilate's office was, say, 20 minutes. Sending for the centurion was probably another 20 to 30 minutes. And then add 5 to 10 minutes for the horseback ride to the site of the crucifixion. I'm probably being gracious with each set of numbers. Joseph might have had to wait 20 minutes before he even gained an audience with Pilate. We have no idea how far. Do we have an idea? Is it 3/4 of a mile? Guessing? Okay, well, he knows, I didn't. Now, we have just lost more than half of our allotted time, possibly all of it. No wonder Joseph and Nicodemus, or Nicodemus and Joseph, were in a hurry. And they have still not laid a finger on the body of the deceased. Now, here's a full-size man nailed to a stake high above the ground. He is dead weight, literally. And we are told that not one bone in his body was to be broken. There are two options. Rig up some sort of scaffolding so several people can climb up and unnail him and let him down gently, or dig up the cross and with the aid of ropes and scaffolding let the entire contraption down gently and extract his body while on the ground. Friends, I don't care how you slice it, you just ran out of time. It says that there was a sepulcher nearby. It says nothing about a true value hard having a store or a lumber yard. Now, do you suppose that the friends of the convicted always brought hammers, nails, ropes, saw, and shovels with them to an execution? Even if there already were ladders on the scene, it would require several men to ascend them, carefully extract the body without slipping themselves or dropping the deceased. Are they going to make it before the Sabbath begins? The bad news is we are no his near done with the events that supposedly took place before dark, when evening was truly over and Sabbath would begin in an even-to-even scenario. Nicodemus brought about 100 pounds of spices that we assume were lovingly wrapped about his body of the deceased, not dumped and wrapped in 5 minutes' time. How long did it take to roll the great stone that covered the tomb? 2-3 minutes? Are there that many left remaining before dark? Luke 23:55 and 56 says that the woman in Yahushua's life came, observed where the men lay his body, and then went back home to prepare more spices before there are the Sabbath. Luke 24:1 says that they went home and prepared these additional spices, then rested according to the commandment. Where on earth did they get time to obey the commandment if Sabbath started at the latest? Normally, they buried their dead within 24 hours for obvious reasons. Once dead, the preparation of the body was a rather serious matter. They were respectful of the dead, and they took their time wrapping and adding the spices with great care. They treated their dead with dignity. What makes perfect sense is that when it says the Sabbath drew on, is that it meant the following morning, because clearly there are several hours worth of work to do after Joseph begged for Yahushua's body. And it was already sunset when he did that. This is not an exhaustive study. I put a lot of et als in there for you to fill in the blanks. There's a lot more information in Scripture that supports the dawn-to-dawn issue, but I think I've covered the bases. Please take your time to digest this and examine it. This is not Troy Miller saying that day begins at dawn. Scripture does. Did I step outside of this book even one time? Study to show yourself approved. Be a Berean. The most salient point here is that even means several points in time, anywhere from noon to dark. Therefore, a day cannot possibly begin at evening. And if it does not begin the day, what does? It is impossible to prove that an evening-to-evening day is, as the modern Jew practices the Sabbath, when a complete and unbiased study of the word usage in Scripture is honestly engaged. Now, here's a list of questions, and I hope I can rip them through here. I just got a few minutes left. That were sent to me by a friend regarding this issue. Answer them honestly, and you will better grasp the gravity of this issue and realize our collective foolishness in believing a lie. Question number 1. According to Genesis 1:14, what did Yahuwah, our Creator, give us to determine our days and years? Lights or darkness, nights. Do you have the choice, lights or darkness? Lights. That's right, lights. Genesis 1:14. Notice it's darkness, not darkness, but lights. Question 2. If a day starts in the evening when it becomes dark, when does night begin? They do not begin simultaneously. If they did, they would be the same. A day starts when it becomes light, Judges 16:2. A night starts when it becomes dark, Psalm 104:20. They are totally opposite one another, Genesis 8:22. Question 3. Is 12 midnight the middle of the night or the middle of the day? It's the middle of the night, because the middle of the day comes after the morning, before the evening. Question 4. When the Holy Scriptures speak about the break of day or the dawning of the day in 2 Samuel 2:32, Judges 19:25, and Job 7:4, is this speaking about the beginning of the day or the end of a day? Speaking about the beginning of a day. Question 5, parts 1 and 2. Was the sun made to rule over the day, or was it made to rule over the night? Genesis 1:14-18, the day. The sun is not up at night. If the sun was made to rule over the day, then how can a day begin at night when the sun is not ruling? It is not possible. Question 6. In Exodus 18:13 it states, "And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from morning unto evening." When does the morrow begin? Evening, night, or morning? Morning. as all of Scripture clearly indicates. I have never found one Scripture where tomorrow starts at evening or night. Question 7. The Creator said many times throughout Scriptures that He divided the day from the night or the lights from the darkness. When did He put them back together? He did not and will not. He doesn't change. Ecclesiastes 3:14. Genesis 40 verse 8. Question 8. If the celebration of our Sabbath days and our new moons, Isaiah 66:23, begins in the evening when the sun is going down, why would our Creator state that all nations shall praise His name and worship Him from the rising of the sun till the going down of the same sun? If from the rising of the sun and the going down of the same, Yahuwah's name is to be praised, Psalm 113:3. If the Sabbath starts in the evening, as many people believe, then this verse would make no sense whatsoever. Question 9. In Numbers 11:32, it says that the children of Israel gathered quail all that day and all that night and all the next day. How many days and nights did they gather quail?
2 days.
A day and a half. 2 days and 1 night. But if a day begins at night, then they would have gathered quail for 3 days and 3 nights. Here you go, count them. Dawn to dawn is you have 2 day, 2 night, next day. Even to even, if you did it for 3 days, if that's the day, you know, it says day, night, day. You've got day, night, and day. Here you've got 3 days and 3 nights. You have a problem. Question 10. Leviticus 5:17 says, the flesh of his sacrifice, of his peace offerings for thanksgiving, shall be eaten the same day that it is offered. He shall not leave any of it until the morning. Does the word morning in this verse indicate morning that is connected with the previous evening, or the morning that is connected to a new day? New day. Numbers 28:3 and 4. This verse also proves that evening is part of the previous day, not the beginning of a new day. Question 11. In Exodus 18:13 it states, and it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people. We did this a minute ago. Stood by Moses from morning unto evening. When does morrow begin? Evening, night, or morning? Morning. You guys are getting good at this. As all Scripture clearly indicates, I have never found again where it says, did I do this question already? Looks familiar, doesn't it? Leviticus Question 12. According to Exodus 16:22 through 25, when does the rest of the Holy Sabbath unto Yahuwah begin? In the night, in the evening, or in the morning? Morning, or morrow, as all new days begin. It says, tomorrow is the Sabbath. Question 13. If a night is considered a day, then what did Yah mean when He said that He caused it to rain for 40 days and 40 nights? A night is not considered a day. Psalm 104:20. Question 14.
What was that, Psalm what?
104:20. If a day starts when it becomes dark, then why is darkness always pertained to as night, never pertained to as day? Psalm 104:20 again is the only notable exception there when it is speaking about the day of Yah's wrath being a dark day. Answer: a day does not start when it becomes dark because Yah totally separated the light from the darkness at creation. Question 15. Genesis 1:5. In Genesis 1:5, does the word day mean light, or does it mean light and darkness? Does the word day mean light, or does it mean light and darkness? There we go. The word day means light only. You read it. It means when the sun's up, the heat of the day. Genesis 1:3 and 4. Question 16. In Jeremiah 33:19 through 21, Yahuwah speaks about the evil that he would bring upon the house of David and the kingdom of Israel if they broke his covenants, that there should not be day or night in their season. If they broke his covenants, that there should not be day or night in their season. The Father says there's going to be day or night in its season. Psalm 22:2. If that's so, what is the season of day and what is the season of night? Duh. The season of day is when the sun reigns. The season of night is when the moon reigns. Jeremiah 31:35. Question 17, parts 1 and 2. In Job 17:8 through 12, the upright men, the innocent men, and the righteous men, and everyone who has clean hands has stirred up themselves against the hypocrites. Why is it that the people who change night into day are referred to as hypocrites? Because the hypocrites are saying that Yah, our Creator, told us a lie when He separated the day from the night. You read that in context. Yah is a liar. He didn't separate day and night. You read the Genesis account. If a day has always started at night, then how could anyone change night into day? It is not possible. But by trying to do so, the wicked could possibly bring about the total destruction of the house of Israel. You read it. There's a promise there. If it happens, we're in trouble. Jeremiah, it's Jeremiah 33. I don't remember exactly right now. 31. Question 18. According to the words of the Most High, what is the difference between a day and night? And I like scripture, please. That's right. Here's what we find. Day equals light, darkness equals night. And we find that in Genesis 1, 4, and 5, Jeremiah 31:35, Psalm 136, 7.